Recording in progress.
Oh no, that wasn't when I was there. Well, maybe,
Oh yeah, no.
maybe I got a different reimbursement because I sure
It
didn't do
used to
that.
be.
Huh?
It used to be.
Oh,
They
I was
changed
gonna
that.
say they. I never had. And then I was in Georgia, so we never had. We called it the. Yeah.
Well, Tracy's looking at the federal, and then she's also looking at some of the other larger municipalities.
But right now, I'm going to because when I'm at Staples, I'm not going to be running. I'm really spending a lot of money. I know, but with
Go ahead, take a while.
I know, but shoot, when I'm out, if I'm out, something I just want this, I don't want to call them and tell them. Yeah. Hey, how are you? Good. Oh, it's time.
My thing only be like, it only be like an hour and 40 minutes.
You come on at 7, right?
Here.
You come on at 7. Okay, I'm going in the back. Cause I told Brian. Thank you, Lori.
Good to see you.
Good seeing you too. I was talking good about you today. Your ear should have been burning.
I hope it was burned too.
Yeah, I said it was
I was
good.
too busy prepping, you know, but yeah, I think we got it good.
She's going to be able to. I said we wanted to do this because we really need to keep this going. Stuff.
There you go.
Okay.
I know you.
Okay.
That's why I asked you. You knew where I was going with that. Yeah.
But people scared. People scared.
Hey, let's just make it happen. Okay. Yeah, let me know when you get some time. We make it happen. Okay. Bye.
Mr. Chair, get you 30 seconds to get out of the way.
Well, actually, this is Mr. Malinowski's meeting. So.
Loaded up on it here. Okay, we ready?
It is now 6 o'clock. I shall call the Administration and Finance Committee for April 26, 2022 to order. First order of business is the roll call. Madam Clerk.
Malinowski.
Here.
McBride.
Yes, President.
Livingston. Here. Joe Walker.
Here.
Mackey. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you.
Item number 2, approval of the minutes for March 22nd, 2022. I'll entertain a motion.
I move for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion, changes? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, call the vote.
Malinowski.
Yes.
McBride. Yes. Livingston.
Yes.
Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item number 3, approval of the agenda. Any changes to that from anyone? I see all head shaking no. Madam Clerk, if you'll call the vote.
Move, Mr. Chair.
There we go. Got a motion and a second. Now you can call the vote.
Malinowski.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston. Joe Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item
Item number 4A, under items for action. Request the business license ordinance be reviewed and changed to address items that are allowed by state law but are not being done by Richland County and resulting in large amounts of money not being collected. I'll provide additional information to Assistant Administrator Jensen for review and handling prior to it getting to a committee. This item has been already taken care of. Director Kavanaugh, I guess he's here. Maybe Administrator Brown instead can respond. It's my understanding from all that we have passed at the council level that this has already been covered. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Hearing that, I will withdraw that motion. All right, that motion being withdrawn, we'll move on to item 4B, Emergency Services Fire Division purchase of a fire pumper truck. That's on pages 12 and 13 of our agenda. Administrator Brown.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. Staff recommends the purchase of this fire truck pumper for the Lower Richland Station, as identified on page 12 of your agenda packet. The source of the funding for this purchase would be Community Development Block Grant funds. That is for two reasons. One, we have funds that we need to utilize before they expire. And two, these funds have been used, as you guys see on page 13 of your agenda packet, in the same manner to deal with other fire stations that are in the nearby vicinity, such as you can see listed on the top paragraph. So if you wanted to get an idea of where Richland County has done this before, you could look at that first paragraph where we identified this will be the 5th truck purchase using CDBG funds. We have one stationed at Hopkins Station. The second one was at Capitol View Station. The third one is at the Gadsden Station. The fourth is a tanker station at the Hopkins Station. And again, this one we're recommending to be purchased as well, to be put at the Lower Richland Station. So staff recommends this for approval and ask the committee to carry this forward to County Council with staff's recommendation.
Yeah, I move approval.
Second. Got a motion for approval and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Malinowski?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Livingston?
Yes.
Joe Walker?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item number 4C, Department of Public Works Engineering Division, Springwood Lakes Community Drainage Project. Administrator Brown.
Yes, sir. If you would look on page 15 of your agenda packet, the staff recommendation includes the award of a contract for Springwood Lakes Community Drainage Project, engineering services to Nova Engineering and Environmental LLC. If you look at the last paragraph, where it says the consultant won a qualification-based selection on their understanding of the project and methods to provide the greatest outcome for the Springwood Lake community. They were the only consultant to have charted a path not only to restore the roadways, but also to ultimately restore the normal operations of the waste of the wet basins. So a request for proposal was issued in December 2021. There were 3 submissions, which were evaluated and ranked, and Nova Engineering and Environmental was the highest ranked offer. It is staff's request that this committee move this item to full council in support of staff's recommendation.
I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Got a motion to approve in a second. Any discussion? I've got a couple questions. Administrator Brown, who currently owns Springwood Lake and Crestwood Pond?
Yes, sir. What I'll do is I'll have Director Maloney come forward to address some of the detailed questions. Mr. Malinowski, Mr. Maloney?
Sir, thank you, sir. There's actually 4 basins shown. They're all owned by the HOA or members of the HOA surrounding those lakes.
And how about these roads, Creekwood Drive and Over Pond Road? Whose authority are they under, county or state?
Those are both, and all the roads in the subdivision in this area are SCDOT roads. SCDOT is a part of this project. They will be restoring all those roads. This grant that we're operating and administering that came from the state is restoring the hydraulics and hydrology, but the DOT is restoring the roads, which will come after the right culverts and such are placed.
Well, it says about the grant here, I didn't see any specific numbers relating to the cost of the project and who's paying for what? Is it 100% this DHEC grant that's mentioned here?
Yes, sir. It's a $500,000 grant.
Okay, for the lake and the pond and the roads, correct?
Yes, sir. The roads would be SCDOT's.
Okay, so we're kind of a pass-through on this?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Administrational.
right. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Anything?
Ms. Barron, is this the same grant that you worked on and we approved a while back?
Yes, sir, you are correct.
Okay, if there is no further discussion, Madam Clerk, call the vote, please.
Malinowski,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Joe Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Barron.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to have a point of privilege on behalf of the residents of Springwood Lake. This is a community who was negatively impacted by the 2015 flood. And here we are today, 2022, being able to make progress on getting this road. These roads are the stormwater drainage first repaired, and now these roads repaired. So this community who's been in disarray for so very long will now have this taken care of. So I just want to thank my colleagues for moving this item forward.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Moving along to item number 4D, the Upper Township Magistrate Sheriff's Department Substation. That can be found on pages 17 to 21. Administrator Brown.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'll certainly speak briefly to this and give way for any additional comments from the magistrate's office or the sheriff's office. But in short, County Council had already approved the utilization of the property in question for the magistrate's facility, but also considered it a substation for the sheriff's department. Conversations had been ongoing for a little while. There was bond funding approved for the magistrates to conduct facilities as they needed, and they have chosen to, in support of this initiative, to continue to partner with the sheriff's department on the furtherance of that magistrate slash sheriff substation. So that's what you have for you here now. The funding is already been approved via for the departments, and then there's also been a process. If you look on page 18 of your document, request for qualification was issued by the procurement office on February the 11th, 2022. A pre-bid meeting and site visit were held at the Upper Township Magistrate Office. And interested contractors were provided with the opportunity to tour the space. We did receive one submittal from Solid Structures. Procurement reviewed the submittal, and an evaluation team provided their scoring. They were the responsive and responsible bidder, and the recommendation is to award the contract for this project to Solid Structures, who is a certified MDBE by the state of South Carolina and South Carolina Department of Transportation. So with that being said, Mr. Chair, we will be staff's recommendation to award that contract, as well as to move this to full council for approval. And I'll certainly yield my comments for any that the sheriff's department or the magistrate's office may have to add.
Administrator Brown, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Well, I'm always good for something here. Especially since I saw Judge Edmonds arrive, I told him I didn't want to disappoint him and not have any questions for him, so. It states here that about half the building, or 4,800 plus square feet, was renovated into the magistrate's office. Would you have any ballpark idea of what the cost was for that renovation? Hold on, they gotta turn that up or something.
Okay. Tom Edmonds, Summary Court, Judge, Richland County. On behalf of our Chief Judge, Judge Scott, he's allowed me to speak on this. I don't have the figures in front of me, sir, with regards to the renovation of the project, but everything was done. I mean, when I say everything is done, everything's done with regards to that building. It's just a shell next door that is just need to be outfitted by the contractor. and we do have the figure moving forward with regards to the renovation part, and we do have the director of procurement. Maybe she can add some more to that.
Yes, sir. I believe the magistrate's office was 1.3 million. The estimated budget for this space was also 1.3 million.
Okay, I saw somewhere in here where it said 1.2, but why quibble over 100,000? So.
That was our little secret.
Well, but it says that the rest of the building that not being used by the magistrate's office has already been upfitted with utility connections. And so my question is, why would it cost the same amount to refurbish the other half of the building than it did the first half when a lot of this groundwork is already done?
A little out of my area of expertise, but I don't see operational services here. If I recall correctly from the walkthrough, when they say upfitted, the plumbing, the HVAC, et cetera, was not completely run through the facility. It was just access into that side of the building, so that in the future those things could be routed to where they still need to go.
And I believe we have Director Pruitt. I think if he's online, he may be online, but again, okay, all right, yes, sir.
May I be?
Randy Pruitt's here. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon. We have the utilities roughed into the facility. They're not active. We just have where you can connect to them, and then they can flow. We don't have to dig up concrete or do any of that infrastructure. We have it prepared for that.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Pruitt. And my other question would be, whoever can answer it, and that is, it states that our Fugitive Gang Task Force, Midlands Fugitive Gang Task, is currently in a leased space. Can someone tell me who pays for that leased space? Does that come out of the sheriff's budget? Is that out of a general fund budget? Out of the magistrate's budget? Who? Chief Polish. Go ahead.
Good afternoon again. We pay for that. The sheriff's department. It comes out of the sheriff's department operational budget, paying for the lease.
On how much is that?
I'd have to look. Do you know off the top of your head how much the lease is? Okay. I'll be back with you on that figure.
Okay. All right, that's fine. I'm just worried because if we're not going to have to pay that, that will be a savings then for us.
Absolutely.
And that's why I'd like to know that figure, please.
Yes, sir. I can get that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
I'm through. Ms. McBride.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The Upper State Magistrate was one of my first projects coming on council. So I'm glad to see it come into reality. Mr. Brown, I want to thank you for the work that you've done on it. And Mr. Edmonds, Chief Edmonds, I know that you worked very hard on it, and now Ms. Barrett is taking over it. So I want to know, is the community meeting room a part of this? Because that was one of the main focuses that we work with the community.
Yes, ma'am. It is part of that facility. Again, the facility with the master's office is about 5,000 square footage, but also with the sheriff's department coming in, there's a community room that will be in there as well.
And we have furnishings for it and everything.
Things in progress.
That will be a part of the funding that you have provided to the magistrate's office? Yes, ma'am.
So there will be furniture.
It's covered in the CIP, yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Hey, Judge Edmonds, it's going to be those lawn chairs that we see out there.
Well, at least, Mr. Malinowski, when I visited the magistrate office, I could not sit on the chair. It was, I was scared to sit.
And thank you, County Council, to the chair. We just thank you for your support. Because again, these new facilities we're building now are state of the art, and they are a great representation to Richland County. We have judges throughout the state visiting our facilities. It's because of you. Thank you so much.
Hey, Judge Edmonds, for those comments. Anyone else? Hearing nothing additional, Madam Clerk, if you'll call for the vote, please.
Malinowski.
Yes.
McBride.
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Joe Walker.
Yes.
Mackey.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item number 4E, court-appointed special advocate, budget adjustment to increase attorney pay. Administrator Brown.
Yes, sir. This item is coming to the committee via the court-appointed special advocates office that operates here in Richland County. And as a part of that process, certainly would not want to prevent that from coming before the body. There is, the request that's listed here is for a budget adjustment. And through that process, the budget adjustments normally happen via a budget process, or there can be items that come before the county in the year if you want to do a budget amendment. I'll certainly let the office speak to this. I know there's been some internal discussions between county administration and CASA staff about recommendations to address their situation currently, but I don't want to misspeak on their behalf, Mr. Chair, and we're certainly open up the floor for the director and or his designee to speak to the item that's been placed on the agenda.
Fine, let's, we'll ask questions, entertain a motion first.
Move for approval.
A motion for approval and a second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair?
Ms. Mackey.
Thank you. I have a few questions. I wasn't sure if there was somebody from the department or not, so I'm just going to ask these questions, and if they're there, they can answer. If not, I'd ask the administrator to get back to them. So I see that they are requesting an increase just for their attorneys and the manager. Do we have a record? Have they received, this department or those attorneys, have they received any type of pay increases within the past 5 years? Or I guess I want to know a history of how we got to where we are with their salaries. And then also, are there any considerations for the additional members of staff with CASA? Not just the attorneys, but the other staffs that work there as well. Have we looked at any type of increases for them? And then how exactly are they sure that they haven't been able to receive applications based on pay alone? So they mentioned that it's because of the pay is not on par with others, but what data do they have to prove that? Or how do we know that maybe there's not doing good recruiting, or maybe there's other factors at play besides just the salary?
And I don't see the director in the, he might be, I see you, Mr. Roberts. I didn't see you over there.
Ms. Maggie, you're through now?
Yes, Mr. Chair, those are my 3 questions, yes.
Okay. Go ahead, and if you give your state your name, position, address, and go ahead.
Dante Roberts, Executive Director of Richland County Council at 1701 Main Street. All right, so to answer your questions, ma'am, there has been a pay increase for the attorneys, and it was done within the last study and approved raises that county council gave to staff. So there was raises for most of the staff in those raises. So
what year was that?
2000 and I'm not sure. It was the last raises that came that was based off of seniority. 2018.
Ms. Maggie, it was 2018.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right. To address how do we know that the pay discourages applicants from applying? We work very closely with USC School of Law and get interns in from the university. And in those, in those interns, they're always interested in applying for CASA. And even when we recruit and speak to other attorneys that wish to work in family court, the one thing that always deter them away from applying is the salary. They would love to do it. They love to intern. They love to come in and help the department. Some of them even come in and do work pro se, but they just can't work for the salary that is offered by Richland County CASA. And I'm sorry, what was the third question?
Considerations for other CASA employees as far as pay increases?
So, of course, we would always want to give the other employees increases. But right now, this is the reason that we're here in front of you today is because this is a dire need of Richland County CASA. We have 2 attorneys currently on staff. One is our managing legal service manager, and another one is our staff attorney who is due to go on maternity leave in June. And we just don't have any recruits. In 6 months, I think in the last week, we had 2 applicants. 2 applicants, one could start in October if they pass the bar, and the other one applied about 2 days ago and requesting $70,000 for starting salary.
They requested $70,000 when you have your ad out there. Do you have a pay scale?
We do, yes, sir.
What is that?
It's starting at, what is it, 39? The starting salary that's posted is $49,900.
Okay. Ms. Mackey, does that answer your questions?
Well, if I may, Mr. Chair, can I just add one more follow-up?
Right ahead.
Okay, so you mentioned the attorneys and you have the open positions that you're saying that you're not able to recruit just purely off of the starting salary not being enough. But then there's a request for an increase for the current attorney that serves as a manager. If that position is already filled, why are we requesting for a raise for just that person versus just increase for recruitment purposes?
Well, we're also requesting an increase for the other staff attorney that we have on staff. And it goes to retention and keeping quality attorneys on staff. The last 2 attorneys the last 4 attorneys that we have left because of salary. They come to us straight out of law school and they always leave because the pay is not competitive. And working with our legal service manager, the opposing attorney the opposing parties average about $20,000 more a year than our legal service manager. So we want to address it. Now when we're addressing the staff attorneys so that we won't lose our talented legal service manager to the competition.
I appreciate you allowing me to ask the questions. I definitely support making sure that we compensate all of our county employees well. I just do have concerns about it right now. We just had a budget work session earlier today looking at a lot of employees that aren't even making a livable wage right now. And so I just want to really make sure that we are considering this as a whole before we're upping salaries right now for 3 attorneys for recruitment. And these folks are already making, or at least the salary is already way above some of our current employees that we have right now. And we still haven't decided whether or not we're giving them a raise. So I just have concerns about the timing of it right now and how it plays out for all of our staff.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. You're right. What we were just presented in the work session showed that these wages are well above the livable wage that came about from the study that was done by, I think it was MIT. Ms. McBride?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you know, I'm always pushing for livable wages, and especially for those that at the lower level. However, with CASA, I know how important the responsibilities that they have in trying to help these young people. And Richland County does an outstanding job as one of the best CASAs in the United States. They require unique skills to help. And I'm thinking that's what you're looking for, because sometimes you have to have that
added expertise in special areas, and this is one of those areas. And so I understand the need for additional pay. And I just want to publicly thank them for doing the job and saving our young people here in Richland County.
Thank you for those words, Ms. McBride.
Thank you, Ms. McBride. One thing that I noticed about the information provided to us is that we're comparing apples and oranges here because we're taking attorneys' wages from other organizations that aren't doing the same work, and we're giving their salaries, and then we're talking about what other managers are receiving, and we're trying to compare cases, the number of cases, but that's a number only. It does not tell us the amount of time that is spent on those cases. You may have 100 cases and you spend 1 hour per day on those 100. I may have 200 cases and I spend a half hour per day on those 200. We're equal on the number of hours spent. None of that was provided here. The only thing provided was some study from the university. When we look at the rest of the information in here, and you stated that the Charleston County part-time guardian ad litem makes about $44,000 per year. Again, to me, not a good comparison. It doesn't tell us how many hours is part-time. Is it 6 hours versus 8, 7 versus 8? I don't know. I'd like to ask our staff some questions here based on information that that I'm aware of, and that is when it comes to the CASA group, do all counties have a CASA group in place?
So counties have CASA. The answer to your question is they're serviced by CASA. I'm not sure if that's what you're trying to ask me.
Yeah, let me change
Mr.
that
Roberts can
question.
certainly clarify that.
I'm trying to find out of all the other counties serviced by CASA, who pays those expenses?
Mr. Chair.
Are they paid for by the county individually?
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Richland County is different than every other county as far as CASA is concerned. With the original, there's a guardian item program that the state runs. So the state actually pays for the program in other counties because it's a state program. Richland County, I believe, existed before the state program existed. So it was the state program kind of modeled after the Richland County program. So the Richland County CASA program is actually nationally known. So it actually came before the state program, but the other 45 counties actually are run by the state program. And just getting back to some of the other questions is just understanding that any attorney goes through the 7 years of school and has a Juris Doctorate. So it's not like someone getting out of high school or getting out of 4 years of college. So it is a doctorate level degree that is required. So I'm not sure if everybody's thinking about that, but and formerly working in family court myself, 15 years ago, the salary was like $57,000. And so right now they're not even making that. So just a little perspective on that is that we're basically talking about doctor that they need to hire for $40,000. All
right, but I guess that's not where I'm going. I'm trying to find out why. I mean, Richland County, to my understanding, is the only county that pays for this type of service. And all the other counties get it paid for by the state. So why can't Richland County also get out? Are we under any requirement to pay this group and to have them in place?
We have to have a guardian ad litem program that is required. And at this point, the legislature actually requires that Richland County CASA exists at this point because they are not under the state program.
All right, and so how can we get under the state program because Richland County started the program, it seems like they're being punished for starting a program, excelling at that program, and now the state is saying, we'll pay for everyone else in the state except you, Richland County. So how can that be corrected and make it right for Richland County to also have their program paid for by the state?
Well, the state legislature can decide that they can change the statute that says that Richland County is excluded, basically.
You say excluded.
That when the state program was created, Richland County was excluded because they already had their program in place beforehand. So at this point, the legislature can change that, but beyond that, Richland County is required to have the program.
And how would we go about trying to achieve that change?
I guess lobbying the legislatures, if that's what is wanted.
Right.
Maybe we could go to our delegation.
Yeah, they're getting a raise, aren't they? I mean, I would like to see that happen. I think that, as I said, I believe we're being punished for starting a program and excelling in that program. And now we're excluded from the state fees. So,
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and that would be definitely something we need to look at in the future in terms of putting us in the state budget to help with the funding of the program, just like they help with us on other certain county and state related issues. So I think that that's a good suggestion, Mr. Malinowski, a good recommendation. But right now, they're really in dire need of these attorneys, and the program is so important. It is so very important and needed.
Administrator Brown, have these costs come up in you creating this most recent budget that you're doing? Have they been included in there?
Yeah, so when the budget process was initiated, we did not receive a recommendation from CASA as a part of the budget process. So, but we did have some conversations about some ways that they could potentially affect, and I think they maybe actually have listed it here in the briefing document, some ways that they could potentially get personnel in there utilizing contracts to address their need. I'm not sure, where that has gone, but I guess, Mr. Chair, I guess one of the questions, and maybe I did not see it in here appropriately, but I see a number of salaries mentioned, but I don't know, other than the 15% increase, if there was any other specific information that was provided concerning the positions. So I think one of the things we would need to know, if you wanted us to go back and if you're considering us doing this, is to find out, what's the actual dollar amount that's being requested. Whether or not that dollar amount is a set dollar amount, is that dollar amount supposed to be a range? And does that apply to all vacant positions, attorney positions that the department has? So that we could analyze that and find out what budgetary impact that would have, both currently and then projected into the future. So certainly don't have an issue doing that. As you all stated earlier, we're looking at addressing the county's needs, and we don't have an issue with looking to address the county's needs, however they are identified.
All right, now where it talks about the 3 staff attorney positions, it gives a dollar amount and it's multiplied by 3. I don't know if that's including benefits or just a dollar amount. I don't know if any other counties have advertised for attorneys for these positions and they've had any success at getting attorneys in those positions. And if so, at what salary were they advertising, where they became successful in hiring attorneys for these positions? I also don't know. When it says a 15% increase, we get an average given to us. You give a 15% increase, that puts this group at the average, which now brings the average up. So are they going to come back next year and say they're still below the average? An average is just that. There's a high and a low and an average. So it doesn't mean everybody can't be at the average. Somebody else wanted to talk over here? No.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Ms. Mackey.
Oh, Mackey there. Didn't look at TV. Hearing voices. Go ahead.
Sorry, just a question. Is it, Mr. Brown, is it typical for CASA not to submit a budget during the budget process?
I wouldn't say it's typical. I would just say that we did not receive this request during the budget process. So I think that would be the appropriate way for me to respond to that question, Ms. Mackey.
Okay. I was just trying to understand. I know we have many different departments that operate in different fashions. So I wasn't sure if this is a department that normally did not submit a request and just move along and give them their money, or was it that this year they did not submit one, but maybe they typically do?
No, ma'am. Departments are unique to that requirement for the budget process.
Okay. And then one other question I just want to follow up. I know the director mentioned about talking to recent USC grads, but has there been any conversation with any HR professionals or looking at recruitment measures to make sure that we're doing all we can on our part to reach folks?
I would like to see, personally, some of these questions being answered, especially the comments that the administrator made about actual dollar amounts and all, and he's got to create a budget and be responsible for presenting that to the full council. And I think we should have all this information before just making an approval to add more funds to the budget. And I think we should also get the answers to questions as Ms. Mackey just asked, and the ones I asked about other people having success in hiring and at what salaries. I'd like to see all that come back before us prior to sending a final recommendation to council. We've got a motion out there already. I would make a substitute motion stating that I'd like to get all the answers to these questions, including dollar amounts for the administrator to look into, and have that brought back to us, keep it in this committee and brought it back at the very next committee meeting. That would be my substitute motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Any additional discussion on that?
Make a substitute motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Livingston.
As a forward to council without a recommendation, and then get the information and decide then. Because I'm not sure when we get to council the process if I don't move forward. That's
I second.
Okay, Mr. Livingston's second substitute motion is to forward this to council without a recommendation,
information being
and have the information provided to us by the time it gets to council, which would be next week, Tuesday, unless you got a different date.
It should come out of committee to that particular date, correct?
If it is approved or not, it could, yes, it could go to the May 3rd meeting.
I mean, it doesn't have to, but it could.
Okay. That's Mr. Livingston's motion. Any discussion on that? Ms. McBride?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Livingston, for that motion. The way we're adjourning this particular initiative or this particular request apart, I'm sure that we're going to vet all other requests coming in the same manner. It sort of concerns me about some of the issues we vet much more than others, and particularly those that are concerning high-risk needs of our children and underserved communities. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Yes. Mr. Walker, Joe Walker.
Hey, thank you for recognizing me. I want to follow Ms. McBride and just say, you know, we've asked, I've sat and listened, we've asked questions, we've beat up the salary. At the end of the day, as an employer in the private sector, I got to be honest, I'm a little shocked and even taken aback that we're even contemplating recruiting attorneys as Attorney Wright pointed out, Juris Doctorates, guys and gals who have put forward 3 years of grad school and the expense associated with that, whether we have HR recruitment or advertisement or otherwise, the fact is we're recruiting them to subpar, substandard salary and therefore substandard life as it pertains to the investment that they've made in their education. So I just want to go on the record here at the committee level and say that if we want the type of talent, if we want to be able to recruit to Richland County, and certainly if we want to be able to retain at Richland County, we need to take a good hard look at our compensation as it pertains to wages and salaries. I know we're doing it through the budget process, but this one in particular jumps out at me is borderline ridiculous. And I appreciate the contemplation given to both sides of the argument, but want to just very clearly state that this one certainly needs revision as it pertains to the private sector. Thank you.
No.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Barron. Hold on, Ms. Barron. You got Ms. Barron and then you.
Okay.
I just wanted to, as the committee discusses the motion, to make sure that we understand the deadlines that the clerk has set forth for the information that needs to go out to us. And if I am correct, if we're talking about putting this on the May 3rd meeting, which I support May 3rd or May any day for this issue, we just note that all information would have to be submitted to the clerk's office tomorrow. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
So I know I am not a voting member of this committee, but I would, like for the committee to be intentional about this motion because as it is very important. And I definitely agree with Mr. Joe Walker that, these are pennies that we're offering, but if this is where we have to start, I guess this is where we start. But to really be specific and intentional about what agenda we'd like to see this item discussed so that it will give CASA ample time to gather information for us so that full council can make the best decision for the children that CASA serves each day. Thank you.
Following that May 3rd meeting, our next meeting is May 17th, correct?
With May 17th.
You believe you could get all that information to the clerk's office by May 17th? Well, it would be 17, 16, 15, 14, 13, 12, 11th.
It will be the week before.
The week before, yeah.
Well, actually, it will have to be vetted
It'll
by
be fine.
administration
Yes,
first.
I think we can do it. Yes. Yes, sir.
All right. The cast of representatives indicate they can have it. So the motion would be to have all this information to the clerk's office the week before the May 17th meeting.
Excuse me, Chairman. Ms. Mackey, I believe he wants to ask a question.
Oh, yeah, Ms. Mackey, I do have you written down here. Go ahead.
Thank you. I wanted to say that I do fully agree with my council members, Mr. Walker, Ms. McBride. I definitely agree. This is important, the work that they do for underserved communities. And yes, we do need to look at what we are paying in our compensation. I want to do that for all of our employees, not just these 3 attorneys. There are lots of employees that work at CASA that we have not evaluated, nor do we know what they make. And so I do support it, and I think it's a good idea. I just don't want to leave anybody out. And I think everybody's situation is important. And the work that they do at CASA, even though they're not an attorney, if they're out here doing the daily work with these kids, they're just as important as these attorneys' position. I also want to make sure that if we do increase the salary, that this department is doing their part and also still recruiting. Because if we increase the salary and we still don't get people, we need to look at what else are we not doing right. This department also has not submitted a budget. So I want to make sure that they are looking at all of their staff members accordingly and bring that to the table so that we can consider it, so that their staff knows as a whole that we care about all of them and not just the attorneys that went to school for, as you guys say, 12, 15 years. So I do care, and I want us to look at holistically everybody and not just these people. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Any other discussion? Seeing and hearing none. Madam Clerk, if you will call for the vote, please.
Malinowski,
We vote no to keep it off consent, so we're sure that we get the information we want before we vote on it at the council level, so no.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Joe Walker,
Yes, with an amen for Miss Mackey.
Mackey,
Yes.
motion approved.
Hey, thank you, everyone. Thank you. Item number 4F, East Richland County Public Service District, White House Road, 404 Hatchery and Genetic Management Plan Project on pages 28 to 30. Administrator Brown.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. This item comes to you via an outside entity, but this outside entity is reaching out to Richland County because they believe that we should share a similar thought process concerning this area. If you turn to page 29 of your briefing document in your packet, you will see toward the bottom under strategic and degenerative, where they talk about the East Richland Public Service District requested approximately 1,200 feet of White House Road from Bluff Road to the entrance of the district's Gills Creek wastewater treatment plant be elevated to the FEMA 500-year base flood elevation and paved in order for the roadway to be passable during the next heavy rain event. The Gills Creek wastewater treatment plant is already constructed above this elevation to be operable during flooding conditions. You will also go back to page 28 and see where they have requested a co-share of cost associated with this particular project and hoping that Richland County will partner with them on that. So this recommendation comes from an outside agency, but certainly does have an impact on a roadway that Richland County maintains. And I do have the Director of Public Works here, Mr. Mike Maloney, to talk about this, but this is one of those items where this is not something that we contemplated. There is not a funding source that we have already previously anticipated or budgeted for, and it would be a consideration for this committee, as to really two things. One, will we approve this request? And two, then looking at applying funding to this request, as it was not something that was contemplated until the point it was brought to our attention by this entity. So with that, Mr. Chair, certainly can have Mr. Maloney speak to any additional information, but that's why the document is drafted the way that it is. And those are kind of the items that are in question at this point.
Okay, thank you, Administrator Brown. I would entertain a motion unless there's discussion. I've got some questions to ask, and that is the East Richland Public Service Commission District, are they a private entity?
I think, can you answer that for us, Mr. Maloney? Oh, that deal there? Oh, okay. Go ahead, Mr. Davis.
Good afternoon. They are a special purpose district.
Say your name so everybody out there listening knows who you are.
Yes, sir. Bill Davis, Utility Director for Richland County.
Thank you.
East Richland Public Service District is a special purpose district that is under Richland County's authority for management and administration. So,
who gets the profits?
East Richland.
East Richland does. Do they ever share them with us?
We actually we share a millage with them.
Share a millage, right?
Yes, sir.
So we give them a millage through taxes.
Yes, sir.
And then they keep everything they get from that.
Yes, sir.
And the writer said that they service approximately 20% of Richland County population, but they want us to pay 50% of the cost of this. Seems to me it would be fair if 20% is what they service and they are asking us for funding that we would offer 20%. I don't think it's fair for the other 30% of the taxpayers to be paying for something over there.
I would yield to Director Maloney on cost of the road.
That's just my comment on that. So,
The road will be more expensive because it will be raised a significant.
Oh, also, I noticed it said a 500-year floodplain base. I've heard people using 100-year, but 500-year, we've really gone big on this, haven't we?
We recently participated in Climate Ready Columbia, and the discussions of the climate change have really significantly impacted flooding in our area.
Okay, I'm not going into that discussion. So.
500 is the new
kind
one.
of like putting an ice cube on the counter and calling it climate change when it melts, but okay.
It's 500 is the new 100. I mean, really, it's the new norm. It's the new norm.
Mr. Livingston.
When I read this, I thought it when you're talking about the share, it's 50% of Richland County share, not 50% of the entire project here. It says Richland County will be responsible for the local share of the updated project costs. And further, they look like they're speaking to Richland County portion, not the total of what they're doing.
Anybody interested? And I see we got some federal shares in here, and then it says local shares.
Yes, sir. I don't have the AB in front of me, but it was mostly a grant funding this, and then there's the local share, which the 50% matches, if I recall, would come out to about $105,000 a piece.
Yeah, that's correct, and that's why my comment, because the grant will pay for about 75% based on these figures. The local share would be 25%, of which they want Richland County to pay 50% of the local share of the 25%. But they only service 20% of the county. Can we go to them later on if we need some additional work or a project done because of the so-called climate change and ask them to chip in for us? Can we do that? No, I'm seeing a head shaking no. So I'm not in my opinion, I'm willing to support up to the 20% for the 20% that they service. Is there any reason they can't do that? Does anyone know the millage figures and the amount of funds that they receive?
I don't know that, but to your point, on bottom of page 28, it does say, as such, the district hopes that the county would consider participating in the local share of up to 50%. So I believe that if that was the committee's desire to go back and say that we are interested in supporting this, but not at the 50% level, that is a discussion that we could have with the East Richland County Public Service District.
Well, I would, want me to go or you want to go?
Mr. Chair, what is the difference in the actual cost? We don't have that in terms of money. I'm having.
So on page 28, Ms. McBride, there's a column. It does say total project cost, and it breaks it down and says phase 1, phase 2, federal share and local share. The local share is saying that $35,440 for phase 1 and $174,000 for phase 2. The only other thing that I will point out, so that total is saying $209,536, which means $209,536, of which 50% would be roughly the
105,000.
Right.
105,000. If I can interrupt you, I mean, I can give Ms. McBride the direct difference, and it's approximately $105,000 to Richland County at 50%, and at 20%, it's approximately $42,000. So we're looking at a $63,000 difference.
Thank you.
Okay, that's what you wanted, right?
Yeah, and I'm having problems seeing right now because I don't have my glasses.
Okay.
Okay.
So I would make a motion, since nobody else made a motion, that we approve participation in this project for up to 20% of the local share.
May I, before you vote on that? Okay, I'm sorry. I'll wait for the.
All right. Livingston.
When I read that, when it talks about this provides sewer service to approximately 20% of the population of Richland County, that doesn't mean that's 20% of their service area, their service area. Richland County, the 20% of Richland County could be 80% of what they're serving.
says they service about 20% of the county, so it can't be 80%.
About 40% of the county, not.
It says they service approximately 20% of the population.
Of the county, but that's not 20% of the people they serve altogether.
I'm not following. Can anybody else?
In other words, let's say, for example, they might be, let's say if they're serving 10,000 individuals. 20% of the county might be 8,000.
That's not what it said. Davis, is that right? They're not given a figure, they're given a percentage, and their percentage states that they are servicing about 20% of the population of Richland County, of the total population.
Right.
So, I mean, that's it, 20%. Is that right?
Yeah, this Bill Davis again, utility director. They have about 26,000 equivalent customers, and that would, equate to what, 2 to 3 people per household. So that's, 60, 70, 80,000 people total.
I'm sure they're the ones that calculated this.
Yeah, I know they have 26,000 customer equivalents.
It's mean a large portion of their customer base is Richland County.
What was your motion?
I'm supposed to pay up to the 20%, have Richland County pay 20% of the local share, because that's the percentage of population that they, by their own words, service.
Be amended that if they could take that back for discussion and bring it back to us.
Okay. We motion to have staff take that motion back for 20% for discussion with this East Richland Public Services, Public Utilities District, and come back to us with it at the next meeting.
A question I'd like to be answered is, how many customers they have?
How that compares to the whole county?
And how that compares to the whole county? Because the county 20%, like I said, could be 50% of the customers they serve. You can't understand it, Mr. Malnass, but do y'all understand my question?
I understand your question.
I got it now. All right, so you understand the motion, Administrator Brown?
I do.
All right, so with that motion, we're all through with the discussion. Madam Clerk, if you'll call for the vote, because it is now 7:00. Yeah, we got a second. Didn't you, Ms. McBride?
I amended.
She made the amendment, so.
I friendly amendment, right?
Yeah. Friendly amendment. So we have a second with the friendly amendment. Yes.
Malinowski?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Livingston?
Yes.
Joe Walker?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Okay, now, the only other items are 5, A, B, and C are items for information. Doesn't ask for any action. Item 6A is no action required. 5A, that's information. That means you're going to bring that back to the council, I guess, or are we supposed to act on it here? It's just info. It's just info, right?
There's just info. There is no action on those willingness to serve items.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Malinowski?
Yes.
McBride?
Yes.
Livingston?
Yes.
Joe Walker?
Yes.
Mackey?
Yes.
Motion approved.
Adjourned. Thank you, everyone.